In the annals of human conquest, few names inspire the same mixture of awe and terror as Timur, known to history as Tamerlane. This 14th-century warlord carved an empire stretching from the Mediterranean to the gates of China, built not through diplomacy or gradual expansion, but through calculated brutality that left entire cities as monuments to destruction. Where Alexander sought glory and Caesar pursued political supremacy, Timur wielded terror as both weapon and architect, constructing pyramids from the skulls of his enemies and transforming massacre into military doctrine. His legacy transcends mere conquest. He fundamentally altered the balance of power across 3 continents, hastened the fall of empires, and demonstrated how absolute ruthlessness could reshape the medieval world. Timur was born around 1336 in the village of Kesh, near modern-day Shahrazabs in Uzbekistan, into the Barlas tribe of the Chagatai Khanate. His father, Toragai, served as a minor noble in a fractured realm where Mongol authority had long since crumbled into competing tribal confederations. The young Timur inherited a world where power flowed not from birthright, but from the ability to command loyalty through strength and cunning. As a child, he witnessed the constant warfare that plagued Central Asia, where Mongol successor states battled each other, while local strongmen seized territory whenever central authority weakened. This environment of perpetual conflict shaped his understanding that survival required not merely martial skill, but the psychological dominance over enemies and allies alike. The defining moment of Timur's youth came through injury rather than victory. Historical accounts vary, but most agree that wounds sustained in battle or raids left him with a permanent limp in his right leg and a withered arm, disabilities that earned him the Persian nickname Timur Lang, meaning Timur the Lame. Rather than diminishing his prospects, these physical limitations seemed to forge an iron determination to prove his superiority through other means. By his 20s, Timur had begun gathering followers from displaced tribes and ambitious warriors seeking fortune in an age of chaos. He demonstrated early the tactical brilliance that would define his career, using mobility, deception, and psychological warfare to overcome enemies with superior numbers or better positions. Timur's rise to absolute power unfolded through a masterful campaign of alliance-building and betrayal that lasted nearly 2 decades. Initially serving various khans and tribal leaders, he carefully studied the weaknesses of the established order while building his own network of loyal commanders. His marriage to Saray Mulk Khanum, a descendant of Genghis Khan, provided crucial legitimacy in a world where Mongol bloodlines still commanded respect. However, Timur understood that true power required more than genealogical claims. It demanded the complete submission of rivals through demonstration of superior force. Between 1360 and 1370, he systematically eliminated potential challengers, often inviting them to negotiations before ordering their execution, establishing a pattern of diplomatic treachery that would characterize. In 1370, at approximately 34 years of age, Timur claimed the title of emir and established Samarkand as his capital, transforming this ancient Silk Road city into the nerve center of his expanding empire. Unlike his predecessors, who relied primarily on traditional Mongol military tactics, Timur revolutionized steppe warfare by incorporating siege engines, artillery, and engineering corps capable of reducing the most formidable fortifications. His army became a cosmopolitan instrument of conquest, integrating Turkish cavalry, Persian infantry, Arab engineers, and captured specialists from every nation he conquered. Most crucially, Timur institutionalized terror as military policy, calculating that the reputation for extreme brutality would cause cities to surrender without resistance, thereby preserving his forces. Timur's personal life revealed the contradictions of a man who combined refined cultural patronage with unprecedented cruelty. He maintained multiple wives according to Islamic law and political necessity, fathering numerous children who would later serve as governors and military commanders throughout his empire. His court at Samarkand became a center of learning and artistic achievement, attracting scholars, poets, and craftsmen from across the known world. Timur himself was reportedly literate in multiple languages and took genuine interest in theological debates and historical chronicles. Yet this same man who sponsored magnificent architectural projects and supported Islamic scholarship could order the massacre of entire populations with apparent indifference, suggesting a compartmentalized psychology that separated cultural appreciation from military necessity. The systematic conquest of Persia between 1381 and 1387 established Timur's reputation for methodical destruction and revealed his strategic understanding of how terror could substitute for permanent occupation. Rather than maintaining large garrison forces in conquered territories, Timur employed what modern strategists might recognize as psychological warfare on a continental scale. His forces would appear suddenly before major cities, offer terms of surrender that guaranteed survival for the population, then systematically massacre every inhabitant if resistance was offered. The siege of Isfahan in 1387 exemplified this approach. After capturing the city, Timur ordered the construction of towers using the heads of 70,000 inhabitants, creating a monument visible from miles away that served as warning to future opponents. Timur's invasion of India in 1398 demonstrated his ability to project power across impossible distances while maintaining the logistical complexity required for extended campaigns. Leading an army of 90,000 across the Hindu Kush mountains in winter, he achieved complete surprise against the Delhi Sultanate, which had grown complacent behind natural barriers that previous invaders had found insurmountable. The sack of Delhi stands among history's most thorough urban destructions. Timur's forces systematically dismantled the city's infrastructure, deported skilled craftsmen to Samarkand, and left the population so devastated that chronicles report the city remained largely abandoned for decades. This campaign yielded enormous wealth that financed subsequent expeditions, while establishing Timur's reputation as far as Europe and China. The confrontation with the Ottoman Empire marked the apex of Timur's military career and demonstrated his strategic vision of preventing any rival from achieving dominance in the Islamic world. Sultan Bayezid I, known as the Thunderbolt for his rapid conquests, had transformed the Ottomans into the preeminent power in Anatolia and the Balkans, directly threatening Timur's western territories. The Battle of Ankara in 1402 became a masterpiece of tactical deception, as Timur used his superior intelligence network to choose favorable terrain while employing captured Ottoman artillery against their own forces. Bayezid's capture and subsequent death in custody effectively delayed Ottoman expansion into Central Europe by decades, fundamentally altering the trajectory of both Byzantine and European history. Timur's final campaign, planned against Ming China, revealed the extraordinary scope of his ambitions and the limitations imposed by human mortality. At nearly 70 years of age, he assembled an army of 200,000 for an invasion that would have brought him into conflict with the most populous and technologically advanced empire of the era. His stated goal was to restore Mongol rule over China and complete the conquest of the known world, an objective that, if successful, would have unified territories from the Atlantic to the Pacific under a single ruler for the first time in history. However, the harsh winter of 1404 to 1405 proved more formidable than any human enemy, as Timur fell ill while encamped at Otrar, far from his beloved Samarkand. Timur died in February 1405, possibly from fever or pneumonia, with his grand Chinese campaign barely begun, and his empire already showing signs of the succession struggles that would fragment it within decades. His body was transported back to Samarkand for burial in the Gur Emir Mausoleum, a magnificent structure that still stands as testament to his architectural patronage. Unlike Alexander, who died young at the height of his conquests, or Caesar, who was assassinated at the pinnacle of power, Timur experienced the rare fate of dying peacefully, despite a lifetime of unprecedented violence. His final moments reportedly included detailed instructions for governing the empire and continuing the Chinese expedition, suggesting that even in death, he remained focused on expansion and conquest. The immediate collapse of Timur's empire, following his death, illustrated both the strengths and fundamental weaknesses of his system of rule. While his sons and grandsons inherited vast territories and enormous wealth, they lacked their father's unique combination of strategic vision, tactical brilliance, and psychological dominance that had held together such diverse populations through fear alone. Within 50 years, the Timurid Empire had fragmented into competing kingdoms, though his descendants would later establish the Mughal dynasty in India, creating a lasting legacy that endured until British colonization. The speed of this collapse revealed that Timur's conquests, however extensive, had created an empire of terror rather than genuine political integration. Timur's historical legacy extends far beyond the immediate consequences of his military campaigns, fundamentally reshaping the demographic and political landscape of three continents. His conquests accelerated the decline of the Byzantine Empire by weakening Ottoman pressure on Constantinople, inadvertently extending Byzantine survival for another 50 years. The destruction of irrigation systems throughout Central Asia and Persia caused agricultural collapse that reduced populations in urban centers for centuries, contributing to the economic decline that made these regions vulnerable to later Russian and British expansion. Estimates suggest his campaigns resulted in the deaths of 17 million people, approximately 5% of the world's population at the time, making him proportionally one of history's most destructive conquerors. The military innovations pioneered by Timur influenced warfare across Eurasia for centuries, particularly his integration of siege technology with traditional steppe mobility and his systematic use of psychological warfare as a strategic weapon. European military treatises studied his tactics well into the early modern period, while his organizational methods for managing multinational armies provided models for later empire builders. However, his most profound impact may lie in demonstrating the limits of conquest-based empire in an age before modern transportation and communication technologies. Unlike Rome or China, which developed institutions capable of governing diverse populations over extended periods, Timur's empire proved that even the most brilliant military leader could not indefinitely sustain unity through terror alone. Modern historians continue to debate Timur's place in world history, torn between recognition of his extraordinary military achievements and revulsion at the unprecedented scale of his brutality. Unlike other conquerors who can be credited with spreading culture, technology, or beneficial institutions, Timur's legacy remains primarily destructive, a demonstration of how individual genius, when directed toward conquest rather than construction, can reshape entire civilizations through annihilation. His life offers sobering lessons about the relationship between power and morality, suggesting that the absence of restraining institutions or competing authorities can enable singular individuals to inflict consequences far exceeding their personal span of influence. In this sense, Timur represents both the ultimate expression of medieval warfare and a cautionary example of unchecked ambition's potential for